0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Lining up Adrian Noble, and here it comes. Connects.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Game Day. We are here covering the wild card weekend. Eagles obviously didn't play because they secured the first seed. And speaking of the Eagles, I just real quickly want to mention something because I'm a bit ashamed that I forgot to mention it in the last episode when the Eagles clinched the first seed. I didn't give this team enough praise, and you're probably wondering what do I mean by that, and that is the fact of if we go back to the start of the season, all I talked about was like the improvements this team needed to make and how, you know, the improvements they made would lead to, you know, them being able to win a lot of these games. And well, what an improvement they did made, you know. I talked about Miles Sanders needing to show out, you know, and he did as well. And then Jalen Hurts showed out with his rushing, demonstrated his work as a passer, you know. But the one side I didn't show enough appreciation to, the defense. I mentioned how last year we were like one of the worst teams when it came to getting sacks. Like we were, I want to say 31st, I think it was, if I remember correctly. What did we do this year? Well, we came out and got a total of 70 sacks. I think we ranked first. I want to say we ranked first, and the crazy part was we had multiple players with double-digit sacks. We had Brandon Graham, who was coming off of, I believe it was an Achilles tear, and yeah, comes out with 11 sacks. Josh Sweat, you know, talking about him and Derek Barnett needing to kind of solidify their roles or show their potential, like more than just the fact that they have potential, but, you know, act on the potential. Josh Sweat came out with 11 sacks. Hassan Riddick, big free agent signing, comes out with 16 sacks on the year. Javon Hargrave with 11. You had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson ending with 6 interceptions, I want to say. Yeah, 6, which was tied for first, I believe. And that's the fact that he missed like a bunch of the last game. So really impressive effort from him. Fletcher Cox ended off with 7 sacks. Milton Williams 4. You look at Jordan Davis's box score and you're like, oh, only 1 sack. 14 combined tackles, that is. Yeah, 12 solo. But sorry, I was getting a call for whatever reason. I don't know what got cut out and where I left off. But like I was saying about Jordan Davis, his impact is not going to show up in the box score, you know. How many times did we see him do such amazing work defending the run? Honestly, though, I need to double check. I feel like I haven't seen him playing in a while, but that just may be to how deep our depth chart is and how situational it is at times with him. But yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention was just shout out to the defense for really having an insane turnaround where, you know, they came back first in sacks, had a guy who was tied for interception for being an interception leader despite only playing in 12 games out of the 17, you know. The linebacking core was totally revitalized as TJ Edwards comes in with 99 solo tackles, 159 combined, 110 from Kaiser White. Real good stuff from them, you know. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to mention because I was like, man, I totally forgot, you know, to give these guys, you know, their respect and dues for the fact that, you know, they came out and did what a lot of people wanted them to do, and that was improve in the pass rush, improve, you know, the linebacking core, improve the overall work in the secondary. You know, I remember starting the season, people were worried about our cornerbacks, and then, you know, then we went out and got James Bradbury. You know, people were like, oh, we couldn't get any sacks, so here comes Hassan Reddick in for free agency. Here comes Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to help out the secondary even more. Real great work. I'm really excited to see what they do come playoff time. I hope it's not disappointment. But when it comes to Philly, that's pretty much what I expect. But let's start it off with, the wild card. Get right into it. Seattle started off the wild card weekend against the 49ers at the 49ers. And watching this game, it was really close at first. Like, I'm not going to lie, because it was 17-16 going into the third. And then from then on, Seattle just couldn't get anything. Like, I remember watching it, I was like, man, they're somewhat keeping this close, and all that. They're holding the Niners at points, even though the Niners are holding them. But then that second half just hit, and it was pretty much over for Seattle. They had some fight in them, but no one even expected them to be here. Remember, like, everyone kept saying, "Oh, Seattle's going to be like a top 5 pick team. They're going to be a lottery team and all this and all that." And it's just like they came out and did better than the Broncos, who everyone was saying was a Super Bowl contender. They made this push. I mean, to me, I didn't expect too much out of them because, like I said, I think they were like 1-7 in their last 8 games, so they barely limped into the playoffs. And to be honest, it didn't matter who you put in this game. Detroit would have gotten the same treatment. Green Bay would have gotten the same treatment. Maybe even worse, seeing their history with the Niners. This Niners team is scary, and I don't expect a lot of teams to actually be able to do much against them. I mean, there's a couple teams that match up well against them, but yeah, this is a team that it's really tough to go against. Geno Smith tried his best, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, but an interception. But the Niners just, have a better scheme, better system, to help out their quarterback, where Brock Purdy steps in and throws for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, only got sacked once, and he even had a rushing touchdown. And you had Christian McCaffrey, who had 119 yards rushing and, 17 yards receiving, but then you had Debo getting 133 yards receiving. So, and then Brandon Ayuk, 73 yards receiving. So it's like, it's a tough team to stop, man. They have a lot of talent on this team, and the craziest part is they're healthy now. That's always been the biggest knock on the Niners, is whenever they've had a down season, it's usually because, like half the team is injured, but yet here they are. Majority of them are healthy. The craziest game of wild card weekend, and the thing is, other than that Niners game, every game for the most part was pretty close, like 1-score game, except for Monday night. But the craziest game, the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Chargers in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they went crazy, man. They went absolutely crazy. We look at, don't even look at the box scores. Look at what's it called? The play-by-play, if you want to say. Within the first 2 minutes, Jacksonville had already thrown 2 interceptions. Then they punt the ball. Then they throw another interception. And then they start, when they get the ball back, they start off the second quarter throwing an interception and then a punt. And then from there, whenever they got the ball back, touchdown, 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 field goal to win the game. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane game to see. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions, and everyone was like, "Oh man, this Jaguars team is terrible. They don't got that dog in them." It was over from the start. It was 27-0 in the second quarter, 27-7 to end the second quarter. And then they just came back, and all the Chargers could do was get 3 points in 2 quarters worth of football. And Trevor Lawrence said, "Hey, I threw 4 interceptions. I make up for it. Let me throw 288 yards and 4 touchdowns to hopefully X out, those interceptions." Travis Etienne went for 109 yards. Evan Ingram had 93 yards. Christian Kirk, 78. Zay Jones, 74. Funny enough, I saw someone saying, screw it, it's the playoffs. Let's make this game real crazy and have Calvin Ridley show up for the Jaguars. That would have been funny, but we know the situation with him. And I wonder if he's going to be back next season, because I can't remember if they just suspended him for the year for the whole gambling thing, or if they suspended him indefinitely. You got to feel bad for Asante Samuel Jr. 3 interceptions, all for nothing at the end, you know. I'll never. It was funny watching that game when I saw him get those 3 picks, and I just saw someone on social media go, he should have been an Eagle, because, you know, have that ties there. Could have been an Eagle, could have been helping out too, but at the same time, I don't know what role he plays. I don't know if he plays outside corner, if he plays slot, you know, whatever it may be, but it's a little what if. But, you know, at the same time, I don't know what's everyone's opinions on Asante Samuel, whether he's a good corner to them or not. But another thing to talk about this game is the fact that Joey Bosa essentially handed the Jaguars this game, because, you know, they scored the touchdown, you know, and all that, and then next you know, Joey Bosa's having a freak out on the sideline, throwing his helmet, you know, taking it off and throwing it down twice, and that, you know, results in a penalty that gives the Jaguars half the distance of the goal line. And they're like, hey, we're just right here, let's go for 2, because if we go for 2, it's 30 to 28, meaning if we get the ball back and we waste the clock and kick a field goal, we win the game. And that's exactly what they did. They stopped the Chargers again, got the ball back. It was a 4th and like something, I forget. I think it was like 2 or 1, I forget. But you know, it's like, oh my gosh, why are they going for this? They just rushed it to the outside, got more yard, or no, I think it was a 3rd one. I can't remember what exactly it was, but yeah, they well, here it is, play by play. Let's see. Take me to the final play. Let's see. Oh yeah, see, it was 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1. They could have kicked the field goal, but they give it to Travis Etienne. And, you know, he tries, like, they look like they're going to try and go up the middle, but he breaks it out to the outside for 25 yards. And then he does another run, but he gets tackled for, you know, -2 yards. But they basically wanted to waste as much clock as they could, kill the clock down, you know, call their timeouts as much as they can. Kicker goes out there, makes the field goal, wins the game for the Chargers. Absolute insanity. You know, yeah, not much to say except, you know, just an absolute insane playoff game. Buffalo, what the heck? Miami and Buffalo went at it. I was expecting the Dolphins to lose this, especially because, you know, thankfully Tua wasn't playing in this game. And I can't believe I saw someone trying to say, oh, Tua's not a team leader, that, you know, he doesn't play in this game and all that. And it's like, dude, it's not about that. It's about the fact of keeping this man healthy and safe, you know. Some people just can't see that. Some people, unfortunately, just, you know, don't view these players as human. But Skylar Thompson did his best, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, but 2 interceptions is ultimately what sealed it away. Josh Allen had a kind of confusing game. I mean, he threw for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns, but had 2 interceptions. Obviously, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis went off, you know, 114 yards, 113 yards. Absolutely impressive games from those two. Jalen Waddle, 44 yards. Tyreek Hill, 69 yards. It was like a pretty back and forth game for the most part, but then at some point, like, Buffalo started running away with it. But then, you know, they were still keeping it, you know, back and forth, you know, like it was 9-17, and then next, you know, 17-17, 17-20, 24-20, 24-27, and then that's when, you know, scored again, 34-24. They got a touchdown, but yeah, like, that was pretty much it. It was a close game. Any point, you know, Miami could have won it, but the Bills sealed the deal there. I totally forgot to look at last week's episode to see what my predictions were, but I think at this point I might be 3 for 3. I can't remember if I called the Jaguars beating the Chargers or not. I think I did because Mike Williams was out. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure this one I called where I said, maybe I didn't, but I remember saying something along the lines of like, oh, New York probably could do it, you know, especially after the last time they met and it was close. They could probably do it. Hell, they did it, you know. And they did it impressively. You know, by the time the second quarter came around, it was 17-7. My friend was telling me it should have been 21-7, I believe, but there was like a penalty called, so they had to kick a field goal instead. Sucks there, but then the Vikings get a touchdown. Oh, it's 17-14, but then here come the Giants again getting a touchdown. It's 24-14. It's 24-21. Kick a field goal. It's 24-24. And the Giants go and get a touchdown, 31-24. And so it's up to the Vikings to try and, win this game and try and get back with it, I mean, it was a pretty even performance for the most part from like the quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also had 78 yards rushing. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins had 273 yards and 2 touchdowns. TJ Hawkinson had 129 yards, which is pretty crazy. Justin Jefferson only had 47. Adam Thielen had 50. Darius Slayton, 88 for the Giants. Isaiah Hodgins, 105 for them. Saquon, 53 yards rushing, 56 yards receiving. Pretty great game from him. But yeah, the Giants defense pretty much held up. They stopped them, and then it's still such a baffling play what they did that final time. It was like, what, a 4th and 8, I want to say? What was it? Yeah, it was a 4th and 8, and he throws a 3-yard pass to TJ Hawkinson in like the flats, and he gets tackled. And it's like, dude, you need to get a shot downfield. What are you throwing? Like, not even just a shot downfield, but like a 10-yard pass or something to get that first down. Why are you throwing it within the first 5 yards? Knowing that there's Xavier McKinney right there watching the flats. It was baffling play by the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, and the Giants get the upset, which many people called. They were like, hey, it's kind of tough to play a team you played earlier in the season because they know what improvements to make. They know what improvements to make, while you only know what to do. Like, essentially do the same thing you did last time. Like, if you beat a team, you're like, oh, if we want to beat them again, we just have to do this again, But the team that you beat is like, we lost, here's what we have to change. And then they change that, and you're not ready for that change that they made, I mean, you could kind of make changes, too, as the team that beat them. But, for the most part, people are going to be thinking, oh, don't fix what's broke. But then you go against what they changed, and you're like, well, what do we have against this? We didn't expect them to make these changes. And even if we did expect them to make changes, you can't necessarily plan for whatever exact changes they're going to make, Like, sure, you can be like, oh, they didn't get the rushing game going that well. Let's, and we know they're going to change it up this time and try and get more rushing involved. But you can't predict what plays they're going to call or what type of, formations and stuff like they're going to go with, They could pull a Niners and have one of their receivers start doing a lot of the rushing, You never know what a team can pull out, So that's just kind of the downfall here of the Vikings. The Giants go on to face the Eagles, and it's the same situation. We beat them twice when we were healthy. We beat them, or we blew them out pretty much. But this is the 3rd time playing them. It's playoff football, different atmosphere. Could be crazy, Could be a crazy game that either comes down to the wires or this Eagles team can prove their legitness, But at the same time, you already know if they do, people are going to be complaining that, oh, they had a cakewalk to the playoffs. They had a cakewalk to advance and all this. If they beat the Giants, I'm prepared to hear whatever. I already know if they find a way to lose this game, people are gonna be like, oh, they were frauds, they're one and done. But like, playoff football, you're playing a team that you played that you're now gonna have to play for a 3rd time. It could be tough, But as long as the Eagles are healthy and they don't, allow the Giants to do what they did in this game, which was control that clock for the most part, Hold on, let me look at it just to make sure. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but they had 33 minutes as opposed to the Vikings 26. That's the one thing. Just make sure they don't pull what the Commanders did, and also, really be ready to stop that run again, like how they did the first time against Saquon. And I saw someone make an interesting point that with that last game, people were pretty disappointed with that game against the Giants, but people were like, maybe they expected, or like, it's not like they fully expected, but maybe they were like, hey, there's a chance we could play the Giants in the playoffs. Let's hold back the playbook so that they can't game plan against us, They only have one game to look at, and that's the game when we're fully healthy. Let's not give them 2 games worth of content to look at, The next game, Bengals against the Ravens. I mean, it was pretty close throughout the game. It was 9-7 in the second. Then it became 10-9. And then when they were in the third, 10-17, 17-17. And as we entered the fourth, I don't know. This was kind of a boring game a little bit. I mean, it was great defensive efforts. You know, they were stopping each other. But then, you know, the craziest part was, I don't know what Tyler Huntley was thinking. You know, he tries to dive from like, let me look. Where did he try to dive from? It was 3rd and 1. Never mind. Because people were making it seem like he dove from like pretty far away. But yeah, like he tries to rush up the middle. And then he pushes, like, he extends the ball out to try and get that touchdown. But as soon as he extends it out, it gets punched out. Sam Hubbard recovers it and returns it for 98 yards and the touchdown. And ever since that, the momentum kind of shifted. Because, I mean, it's not like the Bengals did much and scored and all that. Like, it was still back to back. You know, just teams kept punting to each other. But it was like the Ravens couldn't do anything, and you know they almost got that last second touchdown that would have tied the game, but it was just nothing was the same pretty much after that fumble that got taken back all the way for a touchdown. You know, Tyler Huntley, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. You know, I think there was a lot of frustration with the running backs because like. I don't know. I remember hearing them mention something about the running backs being frustrated. Lamar Jackson, this was either proof that the Ravens need to pay him, or this was just, you know, he doesn't even get like one final game in Baltimore. You know, he could be heading out after this game and all that. You know, maybe, you know, heading out while he still has the chance to. You know, Joe Burrow, 209 yards and a touchdown. Not much there from him, but you know, Jamar Chase, 84 yards. Hayden Hurst, 45 yards. Just was like a real grit and grind type game, you know. Not like it was back and forth for a little bit, but it was like they had to really put in the effort to get a lot of those points, you know, really had to grind through. And so the Bengals advance. They're going to face Buffalo. Jacksonville's going to face the Chiefs. And then, you know, we know the Giants are going to face the Eagles. And then we get to the Cowboys versus the Bucks to try and figure out who's going to face San Francisco. A lot of people were hyping this game up, that, like, oh, it could be a potential upset. Brady's never lost to the Cowboys and all this. But, nope. It was dominant from the get-go. You know, Cowboys get a touchdown. They missed the kick. They get another touchdown. The kicker misses the extra point. They get another touchdown. Kicker misses the extra point. Another touchdown. Kicker misses the extra point. It's 24-0 by the third quarter. And it's just so funny that their kicker kept missing the extra points. What is that? 1, 2, like 4 points. They would have been up to what? 28? Yeah, 28-0. And then Brady finally gets a touchdown. I think they tried to go for 2, so it's 24-6. They get another touchdown. This time the kicker makes it 31-6. Brady gets a touchdown, 2-point conversion. It's 31-14. But, you know, there's not much to talk about. It's not just because it's the Cowboys, but not much to talk about. They just went out and blew Brady and the Bucs out the water. Now they have to go play San Francisco, which could be a tough matchup. Dak, you know, 305 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dalton Schultz, 95 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 68. Tony Pollard, 77 yards. Brady in his, you know, who knows if this is his last game, but 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Chris Godwin, 85 yards. Julio Jones, 74 yards. Mike Evans, 74 yards. You know, wasn't that close of a game. Just, you know, the Cowboys showed out, and now they go to the Niners to reignite that rivalry, that playoff rivalry between them and the Niners. Should be an interesting game to watch. Another interesting slate of games. If I have to give my picks, I think obviously, you know, I think the Niners advance. They're just looking unstoppable. I think the Eagles advance, and what will probably be anywhere between a blowout and a close game. no predicting what happens there, you know, but I still think that this Eagles team just has too much talent to, you know, let the Giants come and, you know, embarrass them or come in and, you know, knock them out the playoffs, you know. Could it happen? Of course, it's Philly. Anything can happen with Philly. You know, you never know what you're going to get with these teams. And you kind of want to hold out hope, but something feels different this year. You know, I said it at the start of the year. Something just feels different about this team. Not, you know, making any bold statements, but, you know, I think they knock off the Giants. I think the Bills and Bengals. That's a tough one. I think I want to go with the Bills. I really don't know, actually. See, if Josh Allen plays the way he did in this game, no, I'm going to go with the Bengals. Because Joe Burrow wasn't great in this game. You know, like, what did he have? He had... Hey, what did Joe Burrow have? Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Joe Burrow this game, you know, 209 yards and a touchdown. You know, but like, if Josh Allen can't be as sloppy as he was this game where, you know, he threw, what was it, the 2 interceptions. Like, he still had an impressive game passing and all that. But he also had 3 fumbles, too. You know, the 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles. He can't play like that. And I think the Bengals are going to take advantage of that. And, I think the Chiefs beat the Jaguars. I mean, the Chiefs are just on an unstoppable, you know, path. Despite, you know, the lack of talent, if you want to say. I think that's our championship game. So, Chiefs, Bengals in a rematch. Eagles, Niners in a collision of just 2 great teams, you know, that have a lot of talent on them. And, you know, it's gonna be a tough game for the Eagles, definitely, if they go against that Niners squad. But with that being said, thank you all for joining this episode of Game Day. And as always, remember, many things in this life may seem impossible, but if you fight for your dreams will fight for you.